Hey, hi everyone. Gaslighting is one of the primary ways in which narcissistic parents and narcissistic families destroy self-trust. It is very important to be manipulated. We have to let go of our self-trust. The same is true for adults, the same is true for kids. If we can destroy your self-trust, then you're going to be more dependent on me. Well, gaslighting is one of the main ways to do that. Gaslighting is simply hidden manipulation. It's hidden not because it wouldn't be seen by anybody. You might see someone gaslighting someone and go, well, that's gaslighting. But for the receiver of the gaslighting, oftentimes it's hidden because we don't have the insight, or we don't know how to get underneath it. We don't know how to get around it. We don't know how to think about it. It feels so normal. And so it's hidden in that we don't have that insight because we haven't been taught to. And certainly the narcissistic parent or parents don't want you to have that insight because you will just be causing them a lot more problems. And think about that as we talk through this today. One way is if they say, they didn't mean it that way. I just didn't mean it that way. Which implies that your perceiver is broken. You really can't see the BS for what it is. And if you've been raised by them and raised in that household, it may be very hard to perceive that. And there are lots of negative consequences if you do perceive that. So it keeps us in a fog. And so they go, well, I didn't mean it that way. Well, but how come I heard it that way? My body emotional system felt it that way, and that the cells in my body even felt it that way. And then you're going, no, I didn't mean it that way. That's the gaslighting. And then we have learned that. And if we are not in recovery as adult children of narcissists, then we'll start going, well, start having that self-doubt. Maybe I was distorted about that. Maybe they really didn't mean that. Well, I always tell people, even though you could be wrong, it's better to err on the side of what you're perceiving. Now, that's not an ultimate rule, but I think it's better to err on that side because you can always apologize later. You can always grow and learn and see things differently. But if you don't choose your own perceiving, then that perceiving doesn't mature and doesn't grow up because we don't have it. So we don't want to stay in the no man's land of no commitment and not owning our own perceptions, even if they might be wrong. And I've owned them before and I was wrong. But I'm still glad I owned them because then I can say, I truly was wrong. But that is what I believed and that is what I saw. Then there are, of course, many other times where because you perceived it that way is because that's exactly how it's actually going down. You are perceiving it correctly. They may say, well, why are you always so unhappy? And you don't particularly feel unhappy at the moment. And you're going, oh, I don't know. And again, when somebody kind of labels you in that way, whenever you get labeling from other people, it always raises the issue of self-doubt. Well, you're just a codependent. Well, you got tons of issues in that area. Well, yeah, I might have, but what you're accusing me of really didn't happen. Whether I have those issues or not. And I went through I've gone through several periods of my life where I had to go through the fire on those kinds of things and kind of come out standing on my feet because it's so easy for others to criticize you, which then creates self-doubt in your perceptions or label you in some way. And we're actually responding without saying it this way. Again, I'm helping you to think differently. Well, you are a codependent. Well, I want to be thinking and feeling this way. Well, I may in fact be a codependent, but that doesn't mean everything I perceive is wrong. And so I'm not going to accept that judgment or that label. Thirdly, it never happened behaviors. I never said that. They will just rewrite history, re-edit. They'll edit history out. They'll edit all kinds of things out and go, well, that never happened. I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. And they will edit it in such a way that you then go, well, now, did it happen that way? Am I clear about that? If you believe that's what happened, then you can be clear about that. No, well, I understand that you believe it never happened. Now I want to self-differentiate. You may believe it never happened, and I get the privilege of believing it did happen, because I can only go by what my senses and my awareness and my experiences have shown me. And so just because you say it never happened doesn't mean it didn't happen. And again, the narcissist will hope that you will have enough self-doubt that you won't challenge them. It never happened. And that same's true with alcoholic families. Dad will scream and yell at everybody the night before, whip all the kids and blah, blah, blah. Then the next morning, have breakfast and nothing ever happened. That last night. It just never happened. And it won't be talked about, won't be discussed. And then children start to have self-doubt because they're going, didn't we just have a raging mess last night where we all got beaten and Dad was out of control and going crazy, and they have, and the child has to go, well, if we did, it must not be important. And so neither must I be important. So we have self-doubt. And then always when someone appeals to authority, which is very common gaslighting, but I'm your mother. But I love you. And I wouldn't do that. I'm your mother. I would never do that. Since I'm in a loving relationship with you, then you need to accept or believe or do what I'm saying. And, and so again, appealing to authority. I'm your mother. I'm your father. Well, yes, you are. And this is what I believe about the situation. I understand what you believe about it. But this is my understanding of that. And you may love me. That may be in fact the case. Of course, it's also possible that you may love me and I don't feel love from you. Hey, we have a different experience. We're sitting in different seats in the movie theater and seeing the same movie, but it may feel much different from the very front to the very back. And then stop being so sensitive. That is a shaming, of course, not only shaming, but gaslighting. You're just being too sensitive. I always love that one, and I love helping people say things in response to that keeps them more detached from that mind crazy making, messing up response of, well, you're just too sensitive. Well, if I were, I don't think I am too sensitive. Or I might even dismiss it and say, I don't think my sensitivity has anything to do with this issue. Is this true or is this not? It's not whether I'm too sensitive. Who cares if I'm too sensitive? If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sensitivity may have nothing to do with that. Can people be too sensitive? Well, of course. But that's for them to learn to explore and to find out. Now, if you're a loving, compassionate friend, you might share that with someone, but not in the way of a gaslighting, shaming event. I can have somebody come to me and say, Jerry, don't you think you're a little sensitive about that? But they don't mean it in a harmful way to me. They're not saying it as a gaslighting or shaming in a shaming way. But narcissistic parents will. Narcissistic parents want to get inside your head. They want to tell you what you think. They want to shake your sense of judgment. And they want to sabotage your self-esteem. They want you to doubt yourself. And this self-doubt manipulation is so common for narcissistic parents. I want to thank you for joining me. Please subscribe. I have a program down below I'd like you to look at. And I also have free training. The program is Your New Road to Self. And the free training is Gaining the Self You Were Never Allowed to Have. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day.